Welcome, friends. It's Podcast Unlocked, episode 430 for February 11th, 2020. Lots to talk about on this week's show. Major departures from both Rockstar Games and the Coalition, so that the futures of Grand Theft Auto and Gears of War are impacted. Plus, Anthem getting a major overhaul. Activision going back to the well for some old favorites. Cliff Bleszinski, the creator of Gears of War, has an idea that would have been really cool that he was just tweeting about recently. We'll talk about all that and more coming up on Podcast Unlocked.
Podcast Unlocked.
All right, what's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey back with you. We got the whole crew for the first time in a little too long here. Destin Legary.
Bam. Hey, everybody.
Off Mike Bam. I like that. This saves the eardrums of all the listeners.
Trying to help him out.
Brandon Tyrell.
Good morning, everyone.
No, you can be on Mike.
Good morning,
Be on
everyone.
Mike. Miranda Sanchez.
Hello.
Fresh back from Disneyland.
Hey.
Yep, back from Disneyland. I'm no longer sick. It's all just really great.
Yeah,
I'm refreshed.
I'm getting past my thing,
Like
but
we're
it is
all.
it's very gross in this office in general right now because it's just going around.
Yeah.
It is not a good scene.
Use your own mugs. Don't use the office mugs. That was my mistake.
Oh,
Someone stole my Gears of War mug.
What?
I can't find. Yeah. So
Who does that?
It just disappeared, and I've had it for years, and I have it on the show every time.
wait, so you still haven't found it?
No, it's been like 2 weeks.
It's probably somebody in engineering, and they
I've
just have it on their
hunted down
desk.
desks. I've done
It's probably
search.
that guy that was just ate Casey's ice cream.
Probably.
Can we fire whoever that is once we find out who it is?
Yeah, and it's
Like,
like
who
a
does
really
that?
special one that I got from the Coalition. We
Yeah.
like to do IGN first, and it's
They
really
probably
special to
don't
me.
know.
But silver lining, you have a new mug today.
I do. It's this little bear. He's from this app
Was
called
it-
Line.
Was it taken off your desk or was it in the sink?
Ryan's like, I want to get down to the bottom
So
of this.
that's the problem is I don't remember if I left it in the sink, which I almost never do. But
Right.
I remember I went to go clean it, and I was in a rush to get leave.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if I left it there on accident. Which even then it should still pop back up, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because I check we have all these mug stations, and I check every single one every day, and I'm like, everyone, please keep an eye out for my mug. It's very special to me, and I'm really mad about it. So
You got to get Pablo to send out that company-wide email.
I think that's
the next step?
Just get
Yeah.
Dustin to do it.
Well,
It's going to
I've done
reappear
this-
on your desk.
I've done the same thing, and I have a mug from the day I was hired in 2011 that I've managed to hold on to, and I left it in the sink once, and I hunted it down, and I found it, and I'm like, hey, when you're done with that, can I get that back?
Can I get your driver's license until you finish?
Yeah.
I cracked my knuckle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, hey, nice tea, you guys.
I love, God, I have the perfect mental image of you threatening someone very imposingly over a coffee mug.
No.
They're worth it. Mugs are great.
I mean, yeah.
Take care of your good mugs.
Absolutely.
All right.
Last a lifetime.
Welcome to Mugcast.
Yeah. All right. Lots to get to. I wanted to just quick programming note. Miranda will be show running next week. I'm going to be out on a top secret mission that I'm super excited about. I'll tell you about that
Very
later.
excited for you.
And then plugging, of course, the Doom Eternal IGN First, which Brian Malkowitz, James Duggan, myself, and some other editors here have been working super hard on. God, that game's good. It's just really good.
I watched the first 10 minutes again the other day.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about that game since
It's all I want to do is
you
play
debuted
it.
it,
Since
yeah.
I got back from playing it, all I want to do is play it.
I went back and started playing 2016 because I never actually finished it. I got almost all the way through.
Right.
But man, it's still real good.
It's good that you're doing that now because for
Yeah.
Eternal has ruined 2016
Yeah,
for me.
That's what you were saying. Yeah.
So it's can't wait for that. It's gonna be good. Only actually, what day is this? It's a little over a month ago. March 20th, I believe, is the release date.
Yeah.
So we are T-minus about a month to go. I know, Miranda, maybe you're gonna be splitting time between Animal Crossing.
I'm
And
developing
Doom
a
Eternal.
schedule. I'm building it out. It's like, all right, Animal Crossing in the morning and during commute and at lunch, and then Doom Eternal at night.
Yeah. You'll be like, that's enough
Solid.
cute time.
When the sun goes down.
The demons
Pretty
come out.
much.
I just picture you sitting there playing Animal Crossing. You're like, I just want to
So
rip and
here's the
tear.
thing: is you go from the cute latte time,
Yeah.
sweet vibes, and then at night you just pour a glass of whiskey and you shoot some demons. It's great.
Hey, that's a sound strategy. All right, we have got so much to talk about this week, so let's start right now with Rockstar Games. This was an announcement that really, I know, rocked the industry is a hyperbolic thing to say, but
Rockstar.
kind of true. This is a big
I
deal.
appreciate it.
One of the co-founder and head writer Dan Houser is leaving Rockstar as of March 20th. So, excuse me, March 11th, not March. That's Doom's release date.
Yeah.
Still got that on the brain. See, I wasn't kidding earlier. That's all I think about now is Doom. March 11th, Dan Houser will be exiting Rockstar Games. There's a statement from Take-Two. After an extended break beginning in the spring of 2019, Dan Houser, Vice President of Creative at Rockstar Games, will be leaving the company. His last day will be March 11th, 2020. We are extremely grateful for his contributions. Rockstar Games has built some of the most critically acclaimed and commercially successful game worlds, a global community of passionate fans, and an incredibly talented team, which remains focused on current and future projects. Now, in addition here, Houser had already taken, as you heard there, an extended break, a.k.a. a sabbatical. At least that's my word. They didn't use it, but that's generally what those things are called. A sabbatical after the launch of Red Dead 2 in November of 2018, and in a statement to IGN, a Rockstar Games spokesperson said, quote, Sam Houser's role, his brother, with Rockstar Games, which he founded in 1998, remains unchanged. Sam and the team remain focused on current and future projects.
Mm-hmm. Well, what has he done really? Just kidding. That's a joke. He has had major contributions to the industry, and especially a Rockstar. It is sad to see him go. Do you guys think this is going to impact Rockstar at all, or do you think they're going to be okay?
I don't think so. I think they're a fairly well-oiled machine.
I feel like this is something that, hopefully they knew about a little bit ahead of time and that they were already planning for. And that company they know what they're doing. Like that team is such a solid team. And every time I've talked to any of their developers on any of their teams, they always seem very, obviously not even just competent, but just like very set on what they're doing in such a good way.
The nice part is I know I've said this a million times about Rockstar on the show, but they have a ton of talent, and then they get unlimited time and unlimited money effectively to make their stuff, which 99.9, if not 100% of other game development studios and teams don't get. You might get one of those three. The talent, the time, or the money. You might get two of them, but nobody gets three, except for them. And still, Rockstar is comprised of literally thousands of super talented people, but at the same point, losing a leader is really tough. That can really change the culture. It's sometimes good or bad. There have been negative stories about the culture at Rockstar, and whether that will be affected by this or change in any way, I don't know. But the thing that is interesting to me, as far as the next game goes, which is almost certainly Grand Theft Auto 6, but we won't even hear about it for a while, is Leslie Benzies, the creative director for years, had already left after GTA 5, and now we did get Red Dead 2 without a Leslie Benzies, but now no Dan Houser and no Leslie Benzies. So, this is an opportunity for, I guess, some of the younger talent and the other developers to really step up and bring in a bit of a new vision here. So we'll see. GTA is so near and dear to my heart that, Red Dead turned out great, but GTA, it's got to be good. It's such a great series.
That's one of the few games where I just don't ever worry about it. I'm like,
yeah,
they're fine. They're solid.
That's the thing. It's, you hear a story like this and you're like, it's fine. The ship will continue. It'll right itself. If it's even wrong, which I doubt it is, they know what they're doing. Yeah. I'm sure 6 will be great. It'll break 1 billion records and everything will be fine.
I'm not worried about 6, but I bet the company is definitely going to feel this. I think internally they'll have to sort of reshuffle, let some of those more junior people, go up the ranks, so to speak, and hopefully they find a new stable path forward. I think he definitely had a lot of value that was added to the company.
Yeah, there's something to be said for the continuity that the senior leadership team had at Rockstar up until now. It's because in sports, that chemistry can really matter, right? Of having the same group of super talented people together where you just know what the other person's going to do before they do it, and certainly before the other team knows it.
Yeah.
But and Rockstar has had that. There's turnover in every industry, certainly in video games. But the Houser brothers, Leslie Benzies, those three have kind of been the head of the serpent, really, at Rockstar and really led the way for really like 20 years. Since GTA 3, it's really been those three people at the top of the organization. So now two of those three are gone, and it's going to be interesting to see what GTA 6 even looks like. From is it going to feel different? Is it going to, I mean, they always bring new ideas, and that's one reason that I love GTA so much, is because it really does reinvent itself every time. It really does push things forward. So I don't know. I mean, I know it's going to almost sound like parody at this point. I'm mentioning Doom again, but just having covered it a whole bunch. I mean, Doom 2016 is a great example of the original revered creators, John Carmack, John Romero, all these folks were gone. And Doom was reinvented by a new generation of developers that were raised on and influenced by Doom rather than being the people that made Doom themselves. And they did a tremendous job. So I suppose that's, to an extent, the situation that Rockstar is in now, where GTA will be led, at least in some reasonable part, by the people that came up on it rather than the original creators of it.
And that's good, because I think they probably see a few ways that maybe he had a blind spot on, or just ways that they can innovate in interesting ways. The Grand Theft Auto franchise has always been, great, especially since 3. 1 and 2 had the top-down look, and then 3 just kind of like ushered in this whole new era of these open world games, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that big of a departure.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, like, there's one thing taking a beloved IP and then like 20 years later rebooting it for a whole new generation.
Yeah.
There's another thing to have a group of people led by consistency, like you were saying. That their personalities aren't. Dan Houser's personality is not gone from Rockstar. He's had 20 years to work closely with his people. You take a design director, you've got your senior designers, then your designers, and your philosophies and your personality and your approach to things is really, it emanates from you. And so over the course of years or decades, in this case, the core group that he's put in place, it's still going to carry on his traditions and all that, and his way of thinking. There might be some changes, some different ways to handle things, some different ways they're going to approach it, and the end result might look a little different, I think. But by and large, like, this is, I really do feel like it's just going to be business as usual.
It's still Rockstar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Destin.
Here's one thing about these guys. Early on in my career, a decade ago, a long time ago, I actually called to just clarify a quote. And they answered the phone. It was either Dan or Sam.
Really?
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh,
it's like,
hi."
Just go for Dan.
I was just looking for this quote. And I mean, that says a lot to their accessibility at that time and how open they were with the community. And it's probably been closed off now.
Yeah. 10 years ago
It's not the
was
same anymore.
10 years ago
was
was
a different
Rockstar
world,
table tennis, I want to say.
He was very respectful. He answered the
Let's
question.
call him right now.
He was, I think even he was like kind of surprised.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of cool to be able to just have a conversation with them about a quote, and they were very open and honest.
That's
about
crazy. How did you get this number? Who are you?
I suppose I don't really think the gameplay systems, the gameplay flow will be affected. It's more a thing that I love about the GTA games specifically, obviously very different than Red Dead, is the satirical tone. It's always been very smart about lampooning societal trends, pop culture trends, and Dan, as the head writer, was a big part of that. So I sort of wonder if the tone or the sense of humor will change.
Yeah, that's fair.
Substantially about GTA moving forward.
Well, there was that whole conversation we had about, like, could GTA 5 launch today? About a year ago, it was
of course
like more of a sensitive time.
Yeah, they would still put it out.
It would still be fine, but they're probably going to adjust the lampooning and strategy in that respect.
Comedy always evolves. It's always what's funny.
Yeah, there's always
10
ways
years
to
ago,
do it right. Like, it's not that they can't; they just got to do it right.
Well,
they just nail it every time.
Yeah.
They nail it every time.
You walk a very fine line between being funny and painting parodies and homage, and then snarky and kind of negative and disingenuous. So it's tough to walk that balance. It's something I think that they've done well. I'd argue GTA is on the darker side of satire.
Oh, yeah.
Similar to the ways that South Park is kind of on the darker side of satire. But you bring up a great point. Like, what happens if Matt Stone left or Trey Parker left?
Oh, God.
Right?
That would be horrible.
Or, you know, I don't even know who's in the writing room these days, but like Bill Hader writes for South Park or has in the past.
Yeah.
And like when those key members leave, like, I don't know if Bill Hader's a key member, but, you know, if Trey Parker had like, well, I want to go make Basketball 2 or something, what would South Park look like after that? Would it? Or do they have the structure in place now where like that is a self-fulfilling machine, right? That is
Parker
a prophecy
and Stone
that
are. I mean,
yeah.
They do have a team, but boy, it's just not.
It's a hard example to paint, right?
Yeah,
but
the show does go offline for like 6 months at times, you know, when they have gaps between seasons. So that's when they do their movie things.
for sure. But I the point of it is like what happens. Okay, take
If they wanted to
Game of
fire.
Thrones, right? Like D&D. Well, if one of the D's left, and this also might be a bad
I was
example.
gonna say you've got fans cheering out there now.
This might be a bad example because people have very strong feelings about the show. I think the show was fantastic right up until the end, but what happens if one of those two left? Like, would the show look different? So, you know,
Hopefully.
when you're changing the DNA, of something, you wonder, is it still going to retain that soul? But I think because this is a video game, I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and I feel like they'll have people that were kind of training under them and that know that style, and it's not
Not even training, but
impossible
just
to
working under them.
Yeah, just to know what that is and their tone.
And I guess a final point too: the fact that that Dan was on a sabbatical, they were probably preparing.
Yeah.
We don't know the circumstances of it. Whether we're gonna give the benefit of the doubt and presume that this was a totally amicable, no problem thing, whereas with Leslie Benzies, there ended up being a lawsuit after. That was that who knows, maybe stuff will come out later. I hope not. I hope there's no issue to be had there. But you have to figure that once a sabbatical happened, that they may have not even intentionally been preparing. Like maybe just during that sabbatical, they figured out a bit of a new workflow to, okay, well, Dan's not here for the next 9 months or whatever, 6 months, whatever it is. And so they may have already been inadvertently training themselves on how to sort of adjust their workflow moving forward. Side note, it seems like every time we hear about a sabbatical, which generally
never ends
they
well.
never come back.
Yeah.
People never come back from sabbaticals because
no.
Well,
Bungie, the guy over there,
Jason Jones.
Yeah, he takes
You're right.
sabbaticals all the time.
Jason comes back, but it generally every time I feel like every time I hear about one of these, they never come back because generally, if you've gotten to a point where you can get a sabbatical, you're doing pretty well for yourself.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for a long time. Those are the sort of two inherent
The two
conditions.
criteria. Yeah.
So you maybe you take time off and you go, well, I've got money in the bank. I love being not working. This is great. I don't want to work anymore.
And that's really what it is. Video games in particular, but
Oh,
but in general, things are hard, right? And you do something long enough and you get good enough at it. At some point, you're like, I feel burned. I need to take a break. And you take that break, and then you realize that spark that pulled you to it in the first place isn't really there anymore. And maybe you want to go try do something else, right?
Yeah.
I think sabbaticals are important, but there is something to be said about the community aspect about working at a company, any company, and being part of a team. I think it's really powerful, and I think it's really important when you contribute to the best of your ability on a team, and that's why people come back from sabbaticals. That's probably why Jason comes back, because he really believes in Bungie. That's why when people take a break, they come back because they're part of something bigger than them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I just like
well
their job
said.
too. So.
Yeah, that too. I mean, if your job's miserable and your boss yells at you all the time, sure, you're not going to
Now,
want to come back.
what are you guys' final point on this, and we'll move on because we've got a lot to get to. What are the odds that you guys think Dan Houser resurfaces in the games industry? Because you're talking about a person that was at the peak of the mountain.
Yeah, 0.
And as the co-founder of Rockstar, which was, don't quote me on this, presumably either acquired by Take-Two Interactive at some point, or they just, anyway, he's in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
He's got to have more than enough money. I mean, he's created multiple billion-dollar franchises. So you think we will see him again in the games
I think
industry?
he pulls Ray and Greg from BioWare and just never comes back.
Yeah, I think where do you go from the peak of Mount Everest, right? Like you can go climb K2, you can go climb Kilimanjaro, you can do whatever you want, but why? Like if he already had everything that I don't want to speak in generalities. Developers develop for different reasons. He was already like at the top of one of the, if not the biggest game studios in the world. And I imagine if you step away from that, because there's more to life than just working and making video games.
Yeah. Is he married? Does he have grandkids?
Who knows? Those are his personal details. I don't know. But like, if he wants to go, drive a riverboat, I don't know. Like, more power to him. Yeah.
Yeah. If I were him, I would not come back. I mean, I cannot imagine his situation because it's probably really nice. So
yeah,
just like, you don't really need to.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we certainly wish the best to Dan and to everybody at Rockstar, and I will be eagerly awaiting the first look at Grand Theft Auto 6 in about 2 to 3 years from now, probably. With the way Rockstar is structured. So.
Can't wait to see those 5 screenshots.
Hey, we'll pour over every.
Yeah, I know we will.
That's our job.
You remember when the screenshot of like the Santa Monica Beach type environment came out? We were like, what does it mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next story here. Another departure, and this one hits a little closer to home for Xbox fans. Miranda already with the deep sigh. Rod Ferguson, the studio head at the Coalition.
Yeah.
Is also departing in March. Are these guys all just going away so they can play Ori and the Will of the Wisp?
Out March 11th.
Starting in March, Rod Ferguson says, I will join Blizzard to oversee the Diablo franchise. Leaving is bittersweet as I love our Gears family, the fans, and everyone at the Coalition and Xbox. Thank you. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with you all. Miranda.
I just adore working with Rod, so
Rod's
I'm really sad to see him leave because, as you may know, I don't care about Blizzard games generally. So this is a very personal thing for me. So that means I don't get to work with Rod as much anymore. But I'm not necessarily concerned about the Coalition here. I think they've set up a fantastic team. They know what they're doing. Kind of the same thing with Rockstar. Like they're good, they're set. And I feel like if Rod's leaving, it's because he knows that Gears 6 and the future of Gears is in really great hands. And like you can really tell how much that team just cares about what they're making. So I'm sad because I think he's really great. I think he's a great leader. And it seems like maybe Blizzard needs help with things. And so he's going to go step in and help.
Well, presumably, since he said oversee the Diablo franchise, it will be a sort of a similar role that he had at the Coalition. Even he's the studio head at the Coalition. He's not the studio head at Blizzard, but he might be the sort of the studio head of Diablo.
Franchise lead.
Yeah.
Or franchise head.
So, which means obviously Diablo 4, but they've also got the
Diablo Immortal.
Reviled thus far Diablo Immortal project, the mobile game, which, so I suppose it'll be his job to sort of make sure that those two are kind of on the same page and Immortal doesn't diverge maybe too far from the brand to what 4's doing or vice versa, and helping probably manage the messaging on Immortal specifically.
Yeah, especially now that Chris Metzen is gone, right? Metzen was like, that was World of Warcraft and Diablo were kind of his babies.
Yeah.
And with him gone, and I'm not saying his departure has anything to do with sort of the state of Diablo, but there is kind of a negative outlook on the franchise. Which,
to be fair, 4 showed really well at BlizzCon.
4 showed incredibly, and I think this is why they've brought in talent from Xbox. They're bringing in Rod from Gears Coalition.
Mikey Barra,
Mikey Barra
referring to
Mikey Barra from Xbox is now over there, and Rod from the Coalition is now leading up the Diablo
Xbox
franchise,
infiltrating Blizzard. What's up?
Maybe I'll like
getting
Blizzard more soon.
Getting those exclusives, those Xbox exclusives.
I really doubt that, but I think we're seeing these moves because Blizzard's at, I don't know if this is the lowest it's ever been, but in recent memory, the company's reputation has been better.
I mean, they've
let's
had
say that.
Real big issues, like as far as their esports stuff goes.
Yeah.
Overwatch is like this weird mess right now. It's like I don't want.
I think it's totally fair to say what you just said.
Diablo's having some issues as far as like Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, I'm not trying to ring the bell or doom and gloom or anything, but they're bringing in new talent because I really do feel like for Blizzard, this is the this is like stage one. This is the first step of a new direction for Blizzard.
Right. And they need that.
I think they do.
And so
I think they do.
I think Rod's a great person to pick up for that.
Mike Morheim had retired
That's right.
a year or two ago.
Yeah, and I cannot remember his name, but they have a new president now who's been with the company for...
Oh, J. Allen Moore, I believe.
Is that it?
Don't quote me.
Been with the company for a decade. Anyway, I love Diablo, probably one of my top 5 favorite franchises of all time. I just love that series. And I'm really excited to see it kind of carried into a new generation. And, if you have one person sort of sitting above, like looking at everything and making sure everything is consistent and there's symmetry in there, I think that is a really great place to be. And Rod's a good guy to do it.
Yeah, he's done such a fantastic job with Gears. And you kind of look at Gears Pop and Gears Tactics and like them trying to fit this franchise into different spots and really make the most of that universe in like really great ways. And I think his perspective on that will probably offer a lot to Diablo.
Yeah.
Great point.
If you look at Rod's history, he really figured out what to do with the Gears of War franchise. Miranda, you've been loving the direction of the storytelling and,
Me too.
and how they've managed to craft that, and as we all have. He also figured out, he and the team, obviously.
Yeah, so to be fair, it's not just Rod making these decisions here,
Of course.
but he's leading that team and making sure that there's consistency. And he's, from all the times that I've worked with him, he's like very involved. So
Yeah, so he
his
and the
leadership.
team, they have, steered the Gears franchise into a new direction. They have Gears Tactics now, the mobile version of the game. And if you correlate that to what Blizzard's trying to do, pardon?
it's a PC one, and the mobile
It's
is
PC.
top.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, Blizzard and Diablo is trying to do the exact same thing. So his skill set directly translates. And also with the Mike Ibarra departure, I mean, of course, like, it's not too far-fetched to think Mike Ibarra said, hey, we should talk to Rod about coming over here.
Oh,
He has
you
a
know
lot
what?
of
I didn't
skill
actually
set.
even think about that.
Like making that correlation. It
there's
just seems
potential
obvious
there, yeah.
to me that, oh man,
It's who you know.
Rod's been considering going on. They
As in
probably
life.
know what they're doing with Gear 6 or how to wrap up that story. And Rod's like, yeah, I am ready for a new challenge to
Yeah.
try out.
And that's the thing is like people, and this might go back, maybe we harken back to Hauser here as well, but like people need new challenges, right? You do something long enough, you get good enough at it, you stop feeling that like fire that drove you in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because
Are you leaving too?
No, I don't know Rod like personally. I know him professionally over the years, but I kind of thought he was going to be a Gears lifer because he really made his name as a producer on Gears at Microsoft before then Epic hired him to produce Gears directly on the team. And then he went off and kind of became a fixer.
At Irrational, he
helped bring BioShock Infinite out of the clouds.
So you're saying he wasn't going to leave, so he's effectively going to be
Thank you.
going to be an immovable rod.
Just not stone faced over here.
D&D jokes.
And
One person will get that.
And then came back to Gears when Microsoft acquired the IP, and they brought him in to run the whole thing. In fact, because doesn't Rod have a Gears tattoo? Hasn't he shown that before?
Yes, but there's a long history of tattoos that don't mean anything.
Well, I mean,
Peter
but
Moore.
it really means a lot to him.
It doesn't
right?
mean you don't love it, but like,
I'm
if you
not
need to
saying
change
that.
for something, it doesn't mean that you didn't, value your time
All
with
right,
that.
well,
Maybe
I'm
it's
going to look forward to the Twitter
good
picture
hands.
of the massive back tattoo
Yeah.
of Diablo.
Just
Just
not
post
even
that up, Rod.
not even
That-
death
that'd
can
be
save you from me. Only God forgives. Thug life.
That would be a
100%.
We're waiting, Rod.
interesting.
Oh,
tattoo.
but
I'm really
Someone's
curious.
just gonna Photoshop his head on Tupac's body and just be like, just nothing but tats everywhere.
I'm really curious to see who they have lead the coalition next, though.
Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of hope that they maybe get to pick within their team. And
I would-
elevate someone from there who.
I hope
really
you're
knows the
right.
Series, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What a great question to pose.
What?
What? You're too far ahead.
I know. I figured that's a great segue for another news story.
But yeah, no,
Well, that blew up in my face.
I also, like you, Brandon, I love Diablo so much.
It's not a competition.
It means,
Diablo 4 looks awesome.
Yeah, it really does.
all right, you love it more than me. It's fine.
I think I do, but again, it's not a competition.
have
Did you
the
play the
Druid,
original
right?
Diablo 1 beta?
Ooh.
Diablo 1 beta?
Yeah, Diablo 1 beta.
Wow.
Hand there.
You know what? I'll take the hit on that.
Okay.
And say I'm not that old.
Did you pay $50 for a copy of the Diablo 2 beta when you didn't get chosen for it yourself?
Yes, I did, Ryan.
Okay, I did too. So we
No, I didn't.
Okay, we've
I
got 2 points for Ryan.
Yeah,
Zero for Brandon.
we are perfectly positioned to
I
debate.
feel like this is less like how much you love Diablo and more like what year were you born?
Well, there is that. Don't remind me. But anyway,
I love hearing you guys talk about Diablo because I don't know a ton about it. I only had like some experience with 3, and I was just like, this isn't really for me. But I like seeing people get so excited about it because there's such a history franchise.
So there's this guy named Mr. Diablo, and he really likes soul stones. Go ahead.
Diablo 2 is probably a personal top 5 all-time game for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's strong.
Yeah.
Always to the east.
All right. I have to dial up an Uber for my wife. So guys, carry on with the next segment.
Well, I'll take the next one. It's all about
please.
Anthem.
Anthem,
So
yes.
Anthem, it's getting a major overhaul, which is actually a good thing.
That
Casey
is
Hudson publicly acknowledged what we all sort of knew already, and that was asset B-roll. All right, and that was that. Yeah.
Guys are seeing how the sausage is made today.
That since launch, there has been critical feedback from fans saying Anthem needs a more satisfying loot experience, better long-term progression, and more fulfilling endgame. Over the coming months, we will be focusing on a longer-term redesign of the experience, specifically working to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful rewards, finishing the quote, while preserving the fun of flying and fighting in a vast science fantasy setting. So I think Anthem definitely has something at its core.
Yes.
There is definitely something there, gameplay mechanic-wise. And I am glad that they're not totally giving up on it.
All right, so it's like we centered on this side of the table for a second. Now we get to do this one because
I also like it.
No, you don't get to like Anthem. I'm sorry.
No, just one.
Just kidding.
You can only pick one live service game.
That's not entirely wrong, but it's very hard to do multiple. So,
She says with her Dota chain running out the door.
excuse you, it's not wrong. You're not wrong. So what I really liked about Anthem, like it did handle so well, and like there was a lot of really solid ideas there, but it felt like they made a game with 2 conflicting goals. They made a single player hub experience where it's like you can get all your story here, but also you're still in your party with your friends, so you can't really like invest in that as much, but then we want you to go outside and go play with everybody. And I hope that they find a better way to marry all of that and like get that progression in just a better way. And I think fixing that core gameplay loop is going to be a challenge, but I hope they can do it.
Yeah, they've actually made a lot of strides in game.
Yeah.
They have been updating it slowly. I played about a month ago, and you can still farm for new currency now that allows you to unlock cool new weapons and get to like the max gear score. So they have been slowly improving aspects of it. There's still problems with connectivity, you know, like delay in attacks from bosses where something hits you and it seems like it shouldn't have, where it's just not telegraphed well enough. And if they get the core infrastructure problems down, I think Anthem would have been in a lot better place at launch.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how they adjust it going forward. I think the reason people were so upset about it is because of those problems. They really wanted it to be good, and they were really let down, probably for the second time after Mass Effect Andromeda, because Andromeda was such a, you know, negative reception from the fans, and EA is associated there. There's a lot of things going on. There's the problem with EA that the community has with the loot boxes. There was a troubled Mass Effect Andromeda launch. And then again, BioWare runs into these technical issues with the Anthem launch.
Yeah, that was
and
tough.
And to your point, with the story conflicting with the open world aspect of it, it's great to see that Casey Hudson's back. He's calling these out front and center, and it seems like he's trying to figure out where they can go from here with the Anthem franchise.
Yeah, I was originally pretty concerned whenever they said that they kind of had their content plan still laid out and that they were going to follow through with it, because there were so many issues that needed to be fixed, and they're kind of trying to juggle both. And it's good to see that they're saying, hey, we see this, and we are just going to focus now on making sure that this is a better game at its core, which is not impossible, because you got some really good examples here of games that were games as a service that did kind of need to reinvent themselves to be a better service and just like a more exciting game to be in. Like Anthem has such a great flight system. Like I loved playing, like the actual playing of it, but it's just like the things to do when it weren't engaging enough.
You also don't really go anywhere. It just seems like you fly around the open world, but the open world is fairly sparse in terms of activities. In free play, you get your activities and such that you can do. You can do the time trials now and such, but it's just not, I don't know, it just feels lacking still. And I don't know why it ends up feeling that way when you're playing.
Yeah, I agree with all your points. It's just not very engaging.
It's too repetitive. You just do the same thing all the time.
Having said that, I feel like a disclaimer should be put out here. I did put like 150 hours into it, and I played the crap out of it and got all my javelins up and was grinding the raids, or sorry, not the
Strongholds.
raids, strongholds. Yeah, thank you. I was grinding strongholds, and the problem is like at some point the diminishing returns basically go from like, hey, this is a really awesome thing, to oh, okay. I mean, I already have one of these. That's fine too. Why am I even doing this anymore? There's no real. It's not a gradient of value. It's boom, boom, boom. It's like you start here, you hit these peaks really early on, and then you just bottom out.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's not enough to do, and it's not all about the loot and motivation, right? I mean, a lot of it is. Don't get me wrong. But it's also about, I'm doing the exact same things that I have been doing. It's the same kind of problem I had with Sea of Thieves. Gameplay itself, the core gameplay is a very, very fun. You could play that game in a gray box and it would still be really, really fun to do. And then you add the world and like the Avatar Pandora-esque kind of setting I really like. Eventually it's just, you've done it. And there's nothing really to keep you going.
Yeah, I mean, a common sentiment I've seen in response on my Twitter feed is, there's a mix, and I think it's totally understandable. Some people are, a lot of people are just doubtful that it's going to be turned around. That's fair. And then you've got other people that are upset because they spent $60 on this game.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's like, on the one hand, you could say, well, okay, they're going to try and make it right. But at the same point, they did pay their $60 and got, just got a not great game out of it. So I don't blame anybody for not wanting to support this and walking away. Now, the question is are these huge changes, will they come at any cost to players or not?
No, I
would
can't imagine they will.
Yeah, I don't think they could do that. I mean, they could, but I don't think
that would go over even worse.
No Man's Sky Next.
Yeah. I mean, yes, right? No Man's Sky Next is an example of like...
But wasn't that a free update, but then they
if you had purchased it, but they also repackaged it. So like, because it came to Xbox at that point.
Right.
So, they were able to resell it on the Xbox platform. Anthem's already on everything, though.
I want to bring up a really close example of this as well that you're really versed in, which is Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yeah.
Came out kind of flat.
That's the best case scenario.
Then
they nuked it.
Then they did a Realm Reborn.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. They blew up the world. Like, that's what happened in the lore of Final Fantasy
It's a really
14.
cool cutscene, too.
Okay,
it is, yeah.
But like outside, I mean, I probably will because I'm a sucker for cutscenes. Outside the lore and universe and world building, how did that actually, what was the deployable for that? Like, how did it go? Like, you installed the client or something, I imagine, and that was the game, and then suddenly you booted it up and it said Final Fantasy 14 Realm Reborn, or did you have to pay $60 again?
That was so long ago, I actually don't remember how
they charged for it.
The thing with Final Fantasy is also has a subscription.
Right.
Yes.
That's different.
Okay.
That is true as
Very
well. Yeah, you're paying to play.
Yeah. Which is why I don't play as much anymore, because I can't consistently play, and I don't want to pay for it if it's running down my time and I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, then let's take another example that Destin can speak to.
But that is
you
like
really
the
are the niche guy for this, aren't you? Which is Destiny, right?
Yeah.
The Loot 2.0 update was huge. Arguably, totally kind of revitalized that game. You could even say the same thing about Diablo 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
They went through and made a huge loot overhaul.
Got rid of the auction
as well.
house.
Absolutely. Got rid of real money, which was, thank you, because I have a problem with buying legendary weapons. Let's just say that.
The turning point, I would say, for Diablo 3,
Absolutely.
which was itself a paid
Absolutely.
a paid
It was an expansion as well, but I believe the Loot 2.0 update came out before Reaper. They dropped WoW does this too. They drop huge patches prior to an expansion to get the world ready for it.
Yeah.
Fix a lot of the issues that might have happened in the previous expansion. So I imagine we're going to see the same playbook. BioWare and EA less degree. BioWare kind of, I imagine, wants their good reputation back, and I think they deserve it. Like, from their pedigree, you could say, well, what have you done for me lately? But I look back on series like, Knights, KOTOR, and Dragon Age.
Hold on,
Here's the thing. Fool me
Mass
once,
Effect.
shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you.
Hold on, Miranda.
That's the whole saying, and that's how players feel.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I feel like I always feel bad whenever we talk about Andromeda, because people will, it was such a bad game. It's like, it wasn't bad. The thing is,
it was a bad Mass Effect game.
So
That's
the
fair.
problem is that it's a Mass Effect game, and that series is held to such an incredible standard, and like rightfully so. It was like a fantastic trilogy, and Andromeda came out, and there were ideas there that were really good, and like I had such a good time with that game. It wasn't perfect, far from the original trilogy, but it was still a good time, and there were things that were there that you saw that maybe weren't executed all the way through. Like you could definitely see where there was a shift in development and something changed that they had to kind of do different things. And so it kind of, I understand the frustration with that or the disappointment with that, but it feels bad because it's like, it wasn't awful. I mean, if you think it's awful, that's fine. It's your opinion.
Yeah.
But then Andromeda came out, and I think that was definitely a disappointment.
You mean
Andromeda, Anthem.
Yeah.
Both A's.
When you go from some of the most compelling character versus character moments in gaming storytelling, period, and then you launch Andromeda, where the facial animations are bad, and you just can't get versed in what's happening with those characters as well as you did with an older game. I think that's the core of what the problem was with Andromeda.
Yeah.
It just didn't look as good as an older product.
It didn't move it forward. It was moving.
Right.
That's how it felt.
I mean, that was always the concern for me when they were talking about Andromeda. It was like, how can you realistically revisit this franchise and do it as well and like make it as meaningful without like tons of time? And I mean, there's obviously a lot of writing about where that project went and how it was kind of a little chaotic.
The story started so strong too. You know, you really felt like they were going to hit the tone, but then they just didn't.
Everything we did for preview, it's like, this is what you're going for and this is what you're doing. And like, there are really great characters in there and things that happened. But then you can kind of see, again, like I was saying, it's like development pivoted somehow and then things got rushed and like that structure they had was no longer there. It was a lot different. Still like a good game, but not... If you're really looking for that Mass Effect experience again, it's not going to be exactly that. And again, like I said, I understand if you're disappointed, but looking at as a game, just like critically, I don't think it's like terrible.
I want to play through it again.
I can't help but wonder too. Like, I mean, I don't know exactly how these things happen. I haven't worked in game development, but I have to imagine that there was a discussion, a high-level discussion, probably with Casey and maybe some leads at BioWare,
Casey,
and maybe
Campbell,
some people with higher up at EA, of whether or not to just pull the plug on the whole thing and just sunset the whole thing and move on to something else. Because,
Anthem?
Yeah, Anthem. Because,
you mean post-launch?
Like, you know, now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about this total overhaul that they're going to do. It's going to you're suggesting
They've been working on it for a year already.
But you're suggesting that it's not going to cost players anything, which I agree it shouldn't. But it's going to cost a lot of money for them to do this in the time and development talent it's going to take to do this. So, you know, there had to be, I would imagine, a discussion at the very least where they went, all right, well, do we take that money and spend it on this game and try to, you know, look long term and revive this thing and you know, find the essence of the goodness in it, or do we cut bait and move on with Mass Effect 4 or something else?
No.
They have chosen to,
yeah. Dragon Age is still in pre-production.
Yeah, that's
right?
still going
right now.
Still in development.
Well, Dragon Age is pretty far along at this point.
I don't think so.
That's not
somewhere in development.
Yeah, not pre.
But obviously, I mean, it's a moot point because they have chosen to continue with Anthem. But
Mark Darr is on, you know, Dragon Age full time now. He's moved on from the Anthem
Like,
series.
to be pretty frank, like if they were to charge for an Anthem overhaul, I would not pay that.
right.
Like that's not a thing I would.
That wouldn't send the right.
And I think they know that. Like,
Yeah.
there are a million PowerPoint presentations that already exist delving into this exact topic between EA and BioWare. They're not dumb. They understand business. They understand that a healthy game as service in the long run is going to be more profitable than both financially and in goodwill and reputation than just cutting this and letting Anthem be the black mark that might forever stain the studio.
And you guys
And
are right.
additionally-
If they can successfully turn the ship around, there are community specific examples of the community turning back towards it for the good.
Yeah.
No Man's Sky, The Division.
Division was huge.
Yeah, like you've seen communities go from completely souring on a game to the 180 of this is great. You guys put in a ton of work. It's really good now. We love this game. So it can be done.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will be done.
I hope so. I tend to try to be optimistic about these things, but I'm pretty skeptical.
That's fair. That's totally fair. All right, couple more stories to get through here. Activision going back to the well a few more times, actually several more times in 2020. And we're already in February, so we'll see what they've got cooking here before too long. During their Q4 2019 investor call, Activision Blizzard CFO Dennis Durkin revealed that in addition to new games and IP, so they'll have new games and apparently new IP, Activision will, quote, continue to tap into our portfolio of beloved IP to bring several remastered and reimagined experiences to our players in 2020, which we'll announce closer to launch. So, what are those remastered or reimagined?
Call of Duty.
I mean, look,
You joke.
you joke, but Modern Warfare, I believe, sold very well. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's the number one game franchise ever.
I believe we're going to see Black Ops 1 remaster at some point, which is great because I think it's my favorite COD of all time.
Right.
Yeah. God. I think we're going to see that.
They own Crash, right? And Crash has been a huge success for them.
Well, they've already started, right? You have a lot of those. Is it a remaster or a reimagining, or they made new assets for, and they brought Crash back. So I believe they also did it with Spyro.
Yeah, both of those were very well done and very well received, and they both sold very well too.
So what are? I guess
they weren't just cash, like quick and dirty, consumer, unfriendly cash grabs. They were very good packages.
You have Tony Hawk on this list. They actually did that on the 360 era.
Oh, we have a list.
Yeah,
well,
they sort of,
I've just
he
threw out
had
a
an
couple of
example.
ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're trying to think about what would make sense to go back to the well on, again, for a remastered, maybe a new thing, but like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, like I think 2 is the most beloved one, right?
I'd play that.
Maybe
That'd be so fun.
maybe you remaster that for probably cross-gen, Series X, Xbox One.
I think it'd be smart.
I could see Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Hasn't there been every once in a while there's a news story about Tony Hawk wants to make a new skate game or something like that, right? But it comes up in the news fairly regularly, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Having said that, I think the last Tony Hawk was not great. It came out in 13?
Oh, yeah, boy, I can't even remember the name of it now. That's how quickly it came and went.
Wasn't great.
There were the two that were made with the board peripheral.
No,
there was one more after that though.
It was just a straight up control stick skate game.
Okay.
And I can't remember the name of it. I don't know. Someone will let us know.
I'm trying to look up what franchises they own right now.
Oh, I went through this already. Believe me,
it's not a lot.
I did this before the show.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. And so
Skylanders.
You guys were joking.
Sort of, but
you guys were mentioning Black Ops 1.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally a candidate. But I'll float something else out because, again, you look at the term reimagined. The Modern Warfare reboot from last year could classify as that. Even though it was a
reimagining.
It's a reimagining. So what I'm suggesting is we know from the Jason Schreier report from late last year that plans changed. Sledgehammer got kind of pulled away from the 2020 Call of Duty, and that Treyarch is prepping Black Ops 5 for this year with a campaign with multiplayer. I wonder if it's possible, the fact that they've said this and that they just successfully soft rebooted Modern Warfare, might they go ahead and just do the same this year with Black Ops, and maybe it's just going to be Call of Duty Black Ops.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah.
so it's not a reboot, but it's a new game, but just kind of resetting the characters and the narrative and everything. Like, I could see it.
I hadn't thought about it
sort
from
of
that
starting over rather than going to a 5.
The perspective I was looking at it from,
new console generation too, kind of a good time for it maybe if you're going to do it.
Perspective I was looking at it from was sort of Capcom's approach to remasters and reimaginings, where they did that for 2 or 3 years as sort of a stopgap measure while they created new IP. Then they dropped Monster Hunter World, then they dropped Resident Evil 2 remake. It's a remake, but again, it is very much a new game.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it as Activision's way to sort of fill in the blocks of a fiscal calendar while they wait for development on these new things. Having said that, Activision doesn't have a whole lot of studios that they can lean on for this kind of thing. So yeah, what you just brought up is like, hey, this is the first step of letting everyone know that the next Call of Duty, the next Black Ops is going to be Black Ops 1 again. Like this is a sneaky take the temperature PR kind of thing.
Maybe.
So we'll see.
That said, if the highly viable possibility of Black Ops 1 from 2011 being remastered, I mean that could be they've got Raven to do that because Raven did the Call of Duty 4 remaster that was bundled in with whichever, I don't know, whatever game a couple of years ago with Infinite Warfare, I think.
I forget exactly.
Anyway, it does. Yeah, they're all blurring together.
I haven't played a copy.
But yeah, so there are a few options on the table here of what these could be.
Sorry, Miranda.
Sorry, have any of you guys dropped into Blackout lately?
Blackout? Oh, the Battle Royale? No.
I was say Brandon's like, wait, you mean like with alcohol? Because
have
maybe
you just blocked out lately?
No,
it's the casual thing you do. I'm just kind of curious to see if they'll do anything with that. If they'll keep it going because it is Black Ops and it's in that universe, or if they're just going to just dump it and just let it keep falling by the wayside. And
so they just haven't updated it or anything?
I mean, I think I've seen them doing stuff with it.
I don't hear anyone talk about
It's been a bit, but I do hear people bring it up every now and then. I personally just haven't done the research of like seeing what the temperature is on that lately. I know people still really like it. But
Well, it's tough.
It's up there. It's a contender. People are still playing it. It's still up on Twitch.
I'm just curious if that's a thing that they would try to include in the next Black Ops. Is like, because I was thinking, are they going to do that with Modern Warfare? They're going to have like some way to persist that game, because games as a service have to live on with that, right? And they didn't really do that. They're like, well, if you like this, you have to go back to the old game. And so I'm still curious to see if they're just kind of dumping that.
This is the conversation that we had as soon as it came out.
Yep.
What are they going to do with this thing? Are they going to make Blackout 2 the next time the cycle comes, 3 years from now, the next time the Call of Duty
turns out
cycle
it's 2
comes
years.
Around? Yeah. So that's a good question.
Oh, we'll see.
Well, one of their partnerships with High Moon Studios, High Moon actually has a few interesting IPs like the Transformers franchise.
I don't know if
they're for Cybertron and stuff. I feel like Beanox did a lot of the Spider-Man games.
They might not have the license to Transformers anymore. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely, they don't own that.
It's interesting when you start diving into what Activision actually has. A lot of it's partnerships in the publishing arm, right?
Yep.
So like Sekiro, we know over the last year, very popular. And that one ended up coming up. But when you start looking at remasters, I start thinking Transformers, the early properties that High Moon worked on. And I think there's more if I were to dig into it further, but I would have to, do a little bit more research. Yeah. It is interesting, and I would love to see what those old IPs are. It's not going to be Guitar Hero.
We'll probably find out at least most of them. If there are several, okay, that means 4.
Yeah.
We'll probably learn at least 2 or 3 of them around E3 time on somebody's stage, Microsoft's or whenever Sony does something.
It's probably something so obvious. We're just going to facepalm when we see it.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadow 2.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, final story. Just wanted to mention this one because this is interesting for Xbox fans. Gears of War's creator, Cliff Bleszinski, just dropped a random tweet this week about kind of one that got away. This sounds like it could have been really good. He said, fun fact, before Boss Kill Productions shut down, we were in... Thank you, Boss Key Productions. Boss Kill would have been cool, too.
I like them both.
Sorry, Cliff. We were in talks to do a new game in the Aliens franchise with Fox. Then Disney bought them, and that got lost in the shuffle. Ripley would have been alive and be your Cortana/Anya. You'd play as grown Newt on Earth. Wayland Yutani are weaponizing the aliens in a Black Mesa-style facility, and of course, all hell breaks loose. Your robotic pal, i.e. Bishop, a new one named Casey, after her doll in Aliens. That could have been a really, really good video game.
Yeah, it could have been. I think it's really tough to adapt like beloved source material. I'm not saying that Cliff couldn't have done it. I think they're that team and he's totally capable of it. But man, taking like one of the most beloved sci-fi horror movies of all time and making a video game out of it, just the scrutiny that it would be under.
Well, who knows?
Especially coming off Gearbox's Colonial Marines. Like that, oh man, that is such a hill to climb.
Well, Hey, you know what? It's sometimes it's good to just have a low bar set that you can easily vault right over the top of.
It's fair, but it also invites like a lot of comparison.
It's like if you come into a new job after replacing somebody that was canned for just being horrible, just being completely inept, and you come in and you look like a god.
Hey,
like, you're amazing.
You're wearing pants.
You're actually
step in the right direction.
You did your work. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. That'll wrap it up news-wise. I'm going to skip Loot Box for this week because we are about out of time. We've got to make way for the next video shoot and respect the audience's time as well. So I do, however, with all of us here, want to do the Unlock Block trivia question.
Ooh.
Which comes to us from Foy Fuller from Huntsville, Alabama. Gamertag Guardian Fail. Is that your alt account?
Yeah.
Guardians fail.
No. Foy writes in and asks a Battlefront 2 question, but OG Battlefront 2.
Oh, man.
Sorry, Miranda, in advance.
I'll do my best.
Take a shot here. The original Battlefront 2 from 2005 for the original Xbox had only one DLC that was exclusive to Xbox. It included new maps and 2 new Clone Wars era heroes, Kit Fisto and Asajj Ventress. In Battlefront 2, what was unique about Asajj Ventress's lightsabers? So you have to know your Battlefront history here. Were the blades jagged? Was it that the lightsabers were connected like nunchucks? Was it that the hilts of the 2 sabers could be combined to make a single double-bladed lightsaber, or was it that the blades were black? So they're black lightsabers.
Do you know this, Dustin?
I might.
Feel like you know it.
I don't, but
Get the scoring out.
I have a decent guess.
This is the problem: is I always take a guess based on my hunch, and then I feel like I give away too much information.
You've each got a point.
I don't know it, Brandon.
You don't know.
All right.
I have it down. I'm going to guess
Miranda.
between.
Should we go Miranda's way first?
Do you know it?
No. I guess I will guess first. 2005. I'm gonna say I'm between. Yes, I'm between 2. I'm between A or C.
Okay.
Was this released after the third in the prequel trilogy?
I mean,
This is when the cartoon was.
Yeah, it would have been, right?
Yeah.
Because 99 was Phantom Menace, and so then were they were every year after, or no, it was 2002 for Attack of the Clones. So I think
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this was a dumb guess, but I'm gonna go with A.
Okay, going with Jagged Blades.
Which is it's like a weird idea, but I mean it could happen.
Brandon Tyrell.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that someone designed
weird.
and
like
drew in at one
DLC,
point.
yeah.
It's, wow, look, they're evil. They look cool.
Well, they're heroes.
I don't think Asajj Ventress is.
That's what this says. Clone era. Heroes.
Well, here they're hero units. They're like you could play as
true.
Vader and Yoda
That's true.
God, it's been a while.
Yes, you must.
I think Asajj Ventress I believe she was a villain, and so I want to say the blades were black.
All right.
Because I feel like she would be rocking the dark saber.
Okay.
For no other reason than I do.
Kit Fisto does sound like a nice person, so
I think Kit Fisto's a good guy.
Good guy, probably.
Destin.
Yeah, I don't think they would have been able to get away with making the blades jagged. Maybe like pulsing, sort of like Kylo's is, but like with how controlling they were about stuff within the Star Wars realm.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I feel like anything could happen in 2005.
Absolutely.
I just knew it was
the
not
Wild
B.
West.
It's probably not B.
The nunchuck thing just.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the answer, I'll be very surprised.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm guessing I'm in C or D also, right? Like the blades were black. That seems really like a thing that they could do. But I'll go with C. I think the sabers could be combined to make a single double-bladed lightsaber.
I felt like that might be too advanced.
I thought about that,
that's a
but
thing
then I thought this was
do in
post prequel, so why wouldn't they just give that to Darth Maul as a hero character? And then I thought, well, if you're reaching into some of these secondary characters like Kit and Asajj, you're reaching into the EU, which means maybe they'll be reaching and like find the dark saber and be like, that could be a cool element for her.
Yeah. Asajj Ventress before too, so I feel bad.
She's
I don't
like a
know
night
who had
sister or something.
black-
I don't know.
Somebody got it,
All right. No, it was the nunchuck.
The nunchuck!
Oh my goodness.
You just let us go.
I can't
let
even
us
picture how that would work.
It was fun just watching you guys
gotta look
dig
this
the hole.
Yeah.
I was like, would
wow,
they
that's a
need to
lot of
find
rope.
jagged
That's a
blades?
lot of rope.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but they could do it.
They've done it. It
Yeah.
happened.
Okay, I did have the character right at least. She's the character from the cartoon.
You
right?
see-
And she has a lightsaber.
Yeah,
that's
okay,
split.
that's all
I'm
I'm
not
picturing.
crazy.
I've heard it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Foy, good job stumping everybody. If you out there, if you've got an Xbox trivia question that you want to try and stump the panel with, please send it in to unlocked@ign.com. Need 4 multiple choice answers. Please note the correct one in your email. And with that, we must be off. I leave you in good hands. Next week, I will report back when I return. You can find me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. I implore you to check out our Doom Eternal IGN First coverage. The game's really fun. Do check out more. We've got more all month long. Miranda?
Yes, I'm looking at black lightsabers now.
I have to look
Who
it up
has
too.
this?
It's called the dark saber.
I've seen it. Because
Yeah.
I've seen it. Because, it's like I know it, but I don't remember who has it. Anyway,
there was
right now I am doing a lot
Ow.
of project management
that.
and other fun things. Oh, what the heck?
That makes sense, actually. I
Look
think
at
it's
the
sped
nunchuck
up.
That
thing.
looks like
It's very
GoldenEye
weird.
in third person.
It's very. Those are
So
very
her
long
hilts,
blades
her
to be.
hilts are much longer. That's how they made it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
You can find me at Havoc Rose and Havoc with a K on Twitter, Instagram, all those places. I'm working out. Someone asked me actually, which is really nice. I mentioned that I was going to start doing like kind of introduction Twitch streams for Dota with my little sister. I have not set the schedule yet because I've been traveling and such. So that will be out soon, hopefully. So just stay tuned.
Sounds good. Brandon?
Hey, I'm Brandon. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Tyrell. Just my name. I don't know. The last week was a blur, so I got some previews up or something. Just check out IGN.com.
I hear that. Destin, take us home.
Hey, working on some stuff for IGN internally. Very excited about some of the new products that we're making, we'll call them. And just keep an eye on IGN for those.
Sounds good. All right, my friends. We will see you back here next week.